Welcome to another episode of the Coffee Break Podcast, where our mission here is to share business ideas, practices, and strategies while we enjoy a cup of coffee. And today, we're going to be talking about health and nutrition as it relates to corporate wellness. We've got an awesome guest. Dahlia Gordon is going to be with us today, and she shares a lot of valuable information about how health and nutrition applies to your overall job performance. So it's a really interesting conversation, valuable to any business owner, leader, or manager, or if you're an employee and you want to figure out a way to get corporate wellness as part of your overall benefit for your organization. Great conversation. So make sure you grab a cup of coffee and get ready, because here we go.
We got so much to say. We got a podcast to make. We're sipping on lattes, and it's time for a coffee break. It's time for a coffee break. Oh, yeah.
All right, Dahlia, thank you very much for being here today. We are excited. We're going to jump into rapid fire, 5 randomly selected questions just to get under your skin with unknown point values. Are you ready to go?
All right, I'm ready.
All right, number 1, what is your favorite time of the day and why?
My favorite time of the day, it's definitely unpopular, but I would say the morning time. I like to get a head start on my stuff, and I love breakfast, first meal of the day. So definitely the morning.
What is your normal wake-up time?
My normal wake-up time is usually around 6 o'clock. Sometimes it'll be closer to 5, sometimes closer to 7, just depending on what I have to get done.
But up first thing in the morning and start taking action. I like it. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
If you could be guaranteed one thing in life besides money, what would it be?
I'm going to have to say food. As a dietitian, food's important. I also love food. I'm definitely a big foodie, so it makes my job more fun, but definitely all of the food.
All the food. Guarantee all of the food.
All the food.
Number 3,
Yep.
What is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
The best piece of advice I've ever been given is probably just, I think it was in either college or grad school, just being told that you have to know that you're never going to know everything. I think it helps keep you curious and curious about, learning new things. And I mean, we'll never know everything. And so being humble about that, I think, is important.
Very good advice. All right. Number 4, do you collect anything?
Do I collect anything? I don't collect anything, actually. Maybe I need to start collecting things.
I mean, it's not a bad thing. I know people that collect way too much stuff, and then they have an entire garage full of it, and then they have to get extra shelving to put the stuff in that they've collected. So it's not a bad thing.
No. Yeah, I know when we were younger, my mom would, when the Beanie Baby craze was a thing, we had quite a few of those. But that's probably the last thing that...
Why did you bring that memory up? That's horrible.
Yeah.
Number 5, what was the first thing that you ever bought with your own money?
Ooh, the first thing I bought with my own money... like little things, probably candy. Like I said, I've always loved food. But I think the first big thing that I bought with my own babysitting money, I think I got an iPod, one of the touch ones that I could text on, because my sister and I had to share a phone.
There you go.
So I was like, now I can text.
Very good. I think the first memory that I can go back to of something that I was able to make a decision on purchasing was a Game Boy. So, that personal device, you got to have it. Cool. Well, thank you very much. You passed 5 randomly selected questions. We're going to give you a score of 763. So, congratulations. Well done.
Awesome.
So, we'll get into the conversation today all about health and nutrition. So, you are a registered dietitian. For anybody that doesn't know what that is, including myself, what would you describe that as? How would you define that for someone that you ran into the street?
So registered dietitians, we're considered the experts in food and nutrition. I think a lot of people think of nutrition, first of all, as like what we see on Instagram is a big thing. But also we are in a lot of different fields. So in our schooling, typically you'll go to school and get your 4-year degree in a nutrition program. You can also do things like public health or other health related fields. And then you have to do a supervised practice of 1,200 hours. And you can do whatever emphasis that program has. So mine was in community nutrition. And then we have to take a boards exam. And a lot of us also have master's degrees. I think in like 2023, it's required for all dietitians. But we study like all different types of nutrition. So whether it's in the hospital, dealing with like tube feeding, or which is big right now with everything going on, sure. Food service. So like in colleges, universities, hospitals, schools, the food service directors are typically dietitians. Mm-hmm. And then we have people that focus more on like the wellness and preventative side, which is what I do. And we do things like counseling and helping people just live a healthier lifestyle.
Hi, I'm Sam Gray with Loc-Doc Security, and we want to give you 3 ways to reduce touch points in your office. Tip number 1 is keeping interior doors that are not a security risk open. One way you can accomplish this is a door closer with a hold open arm. Tip number 2 is you could consider switching to a motion activated light or a smart switch. Tip number 3 is using automatic door openers for your high traffic interior and exterior doors. You can do that by using Brevo Mobile Pass or motion activated buttons.
Some of the things that I want to kind of ask you today or talk through is specifically about health and nutrition as it applies to your just overall physical well-being, the way that you process things, the way that you think. So, you know, from our kind of core audience that we're focused on is business owners, you know, business leaders and managers. And we talk a lot about business ideas, strategies, and practices. And so to talk about health and nutrition is an interesting component of that. But I think that it is a very vital component, probably one that's overlooked quite a bit, is the health and nutrition, the well-being of the way that you're essentially taking care of yourself affects the way that you think and the way that you process. What kind of advice are you seeing or are you giving to people relating to health and nutrition and how it affects you on a mental health standpoint? And that may not be your expertise, so I'm not asking you to give us mental health advice, but from that connection point.
Yeah, so the thing with food and nutrition is not only does it affect everyone and it touches everyone because everyone has to eat, but it's also connected with a lot of things like our mental health, like our physical activity, the way that our day goes, things like that. So we have to really look at the big picture, especially when you're on a wellness side. Because a lot of times when people aren't eating healthy and don't have the best diets, it's not just because they're choosing to. Some of it can be, you know, based on their schedules. Maybe they're really busy. Maybe they travel a lot. And so they don't always have access to their kitchen, or they don't have the means to pack a lunch every day. So looking at that is important. And really, it can be hard to give like blanket advice to everyone because really we're all very different and our needs are different. So I think the best advice is really listening to your body and figuring out what works best for you as an individual and what's going to make you feel the best or help you reach your health goals. But I think, you know, today, I think we've gotten away from listening to how we feel and what our body's trying to tell us.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, especially in business. You get so busy. I know in time, like right now in the current situation that we're dealing with across the country, it puts a lot of stress on, you know, business owners and leaders. I know for myself, my hours at the office have increased significantly, and it's grabbing food when you can grab food and throwing it down your throat just so that you can continue to sustain. And it's not the best place to be at because you're not being very mindful of your diet and nutrition at that point. And so over time that wears on you. And so focusing on that, which I've had the great benefit of having my wife that helps with that and tries to make sure that I've got the right nutrients to keep me going. But it's something that I think, again, a lot of people just overlook when it comes down to it. So from a nutrition standpoint, how did you get into the industry? What kind of drove you into that line of work that said, hey, this is something that is interesting, and this is something that I think I can help others with?
Yeah, so like I said, I've always really been into food, and have always loved food. But when I was in college, I was a student athlete. I was on the swim team as a springboard diver. And I think probably halfway through my freshman year, I realized how much the food that I was eating was affecting my performance. So like when I, would eat a little bit cleaner, and for whatever reason, when I would eat bananas before practice, like I would have a way better practice. I think instead of having some of the unhealthier things that were in the dining hall. And I just realized like, wow, there's really something to like what we eat and how we can perform, whether it's mentally or physically. And luckily we had a pretty good nutrition program where I went to undergrad. And so I made that switch into nutrition.
So I think one of the things you just said earlier just reminded me of it. You mentioned that it's hard to give blanket advice to everybody because maybe that banana before practice doesn't actually benefit everybody. I don't know. I'm not a nutritionist, so I'm just kind of throwing that out there. But understanding there's different food reacts differently to different individuals. So working with someone on an individual basis or one-on-one basis helps to bring the best out of you personally.
Yes. And that's where, like working with a registered dietitian can be really helpful because there is so much information out there, which is awesome because we can literally get on the computer and Google whatever we want to about nutrition. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword though, because really anyone can say whatever they want to about nutrition as well. So having someone that's able to guide you through that and, knows the science behind it, I think can be really helpful for people.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting and probably very valid point because you can Google any diet measures or any nutrition measures, I guess would be a better way to say that. And there's so much information that you try it and then it just reacts poorly with your body. It drains your energy or whatever the case may be, because it's not what is catered to your body type versus somebody else's. So that's very, very interesting. When you deal with people and maybe you're chatting with somebody and they find out you're a nutritionist, what is kind of one of the most crazy questions someone has asked you that said, hey, let me ask you this question because you're a nutritionist? Just a reminder, you're listening to the Coffee Break Podcast. Also, we wanted to let you know that our team puts together a weekly blog post. You can find it at locdoc.net/blog. It's guaranteed to raise your IQ by 12 points or your money back. So it's pretty much a win-win. All right, back to the conversation.
Yeah, so I get a lot of questions now about intermittent fasting or keto. People are really curious about that. The question, which is funny that bananas are getting brought up again, but one of the things I hear so much is people will be like, oh yeah, I know that bananas are bad for you. Yeah. And I don't know where it came from, but bananas are good for you. But I hear that a lot. And I think it's just, some of the things that we read, maybe because they're high in carbs or whatever, but I hear the same things over and over again. So
whatever the current trends are that, need to eat. I eat a lot of almond butter. Is that a bad thing?
No, it's got the good healthy fats. It's good for your heart and your brain, and I mean, and really, if you think about it, is any food really bad? Probably not. We can probably fit any food into your diet. It's about balance and everything in moderation. Really, for probably everything in your life is a good thing.
Well, I eat a strict diet of bananas, almond butter, a lot of chicken, and pizza. So there
you go.
Another thing that I think is interesting, just from a relevant standpoint, and really leaning to the I guess, kind of going back to what you were saying earlier from an athletic standpoint and how nutrition affects that. You do some work with professional athletes. What if you want to talk a little bit about that or what you've learned through that process?
Yeah, so I think with the professional athletes, one of the hard things is getting them enough fuel. So typically when we work with people on wellness, it can be for anything from like weight management to disease management, disease prevention. I do a lot with sports nutrition. That's one of my focuses. And it brings another challenge, just getting a lot of good quality, healthy food into an athlete, especially like with basketball players that might be like 6'10". They need a lot of fuel and a lot of food. In order to get that from healthy food, it can be a little bit tricky. So getting creative with how to get healthy calories in has been something that I've learned a lot about.
It's been intriguing. One of our team members here has been going down a path of working with a dietitian to implement the best way to lose weight. So they had a major target that they were trying to get to, and I think that they've dropped nearly 60 pounds to this point. And it's been incredible to see that process from a distance, because they were able to get a plan crafted for them. This person has been one that's tried different diets over time, but this has been something that they've really engaged with, and it's something that they've not seen it as a diet necessarily or a limitation necessarily, but a way of life that they've understood. This is the way that I need to operate that's best for my body.
Yeah, and as dietitians, that's really what we want. We don't want to take food away from people, and we don't want people to have a lot of limitations, and we don't want people to feel deprived. So we try to have them make lifestyle changes. And for some people, they're able to make a lot of changes quickly. Other people, it takes a little bit more time. And that's okay, because if you think about how long you've probably had some of these habits, to think that you're just going to break them in a few weeks isn't really that realistic.
How much do you see nutrition impacting decision making?
What do you mean?
The way that your nutrition is for your body, how that affects the way that you make decisions on a daily basis, not necessarily relating to food, but just decisions in general.
Yeah, so this is actually like one of my favorite topics in nutrition right now, and it has to do with gut health. So a lot of the research that has come out in the past probably 10 years has really focused on how our gut is constantly communicating with our brains. So if you think about, putting things that maybe aren't the best for our stomach, or that our gut or our gut bacteria doesn't really like, then it's going to send those messages back up to our brain. So having a healthy brain also goes back to having a healthy gut. So there's a lot more to it than I think people want to admit. That's
interesting. So that whole statement of "I'm going with my gut instinct" actually has some legitimacy to it.
It does, yes.
So it's finding things that can be beneficial for your gut health that will also impact the way you make decisions. I think for any business leader, that's something that you need to focus on, because you're constantly making decisions. That's essentially your entire life is making decisions. And if you're off kilter elsewhere, then that's going to affect the way that you're operating. Yeah, and with that too, another simple thing that isn't directly food related, but it has an impact, is like the time that you eat. So if you can get on a good schedule and you're eating around the same time every day, and your body is like anticipating getting some fuel, it helps you out, and it can help your body work a little bit more efficiently and more productive, as well as your brain. Can you copy this key? That's a question we get asked about 3,422 times a year. And how can you actually be sure that the person who asked that question is supposed to get a copy of that key? Well, we think you should always know who can copy your keys to your business and your home, because it could be your neighbor, an old employee, a contractor, or even worse, your mother-in-law. At Loc-Doc Security, we believe in protected key systems, so you always know who has a copy of your key. To find out more, visit Loc-Doc.net or stop by our Charlotte location. Loc-Doc Security, helping you protect your people and your property. When it comes to, and you mentioned earlier about working with professional athletes and organizations. So I think that you had, and I think this was before we started recording, but you had mentioned that you work with a local organization here on the business side as well as the athletes. How do you see businesses that take on health as an initiative? How do you see that impacting their day-to-day operations?
So I think with, because we do a lot of corporate wellness, so we'll actually go in to these businesses and we'll meet one-on-one with people. We can do things like group talks or set up challenges, things like that. And I think for one, it tells the employees that their employer cares about them and cares about their health, which I think is important. Another thing is when people are feeling healthier, they typically work better and it improves their productivity. And then if we think about it on like a larger scale, if you look at, you know, the top causes of death and disease in the US, a lot of that is related to food. I think the number one is heart disease, which that is largely related to what we're eating. So, I mean, it can help keep employees happy, healthy, more productive, and working longer, less sick days.
So that's interesting. We years ago, and it's been a while since we've done this, but we did a health challenge within our organization with our team, and I don't think it was probably the best executed thing that we'd ever done because it didn't have a lot of good, healthy, nutritional aspects to it. It was just, you know, it was very, very vague. But what I did see out of it, and hopefully I'll land this point, what I did see out of it is getting the entire company on the same trajectory from a health standpoint did have positive implications. I think having some more structure behind it and having someone to actually coach that and say, hey, this is a better way to go about it could have massive impact because you're all kind of working together for the same cause. I know, you know, we talk a lot about culture and community in our podcast and even around our organization. And I think when it comes down to nutrition, that's as much as part of the culture as anything because you know, if you've ever been in a business where there's one or two people that are trying to change some of their healthy habits and they're going down a path where they're bringing certain food in, you know, that health food in, and then everybody else is bringing in fried chicken and soft drinks, then it can be very discouraging. So if, as an organization, if you're all in the same mindset with somebody that can say, hey, these are some good practices, I think that's a really interesting perspective. So you're doing that. It's a great term that you just used, corporate wellness. What does a typical session like that look like, or a typical process look like from a corporate wellness perspective? Because this is very intriguing.
So it's pretty similar to what we do in the office. The nice part about it is that it's on site. It just is nice for the employees because it's, you know, one less appointment that they have to leave work early for or take time out of the evening to do. But really what we do is I focus a lot on nutrition education, just because I think the more that people know, the better at making decisions for themselves they'll be right now and long term. I would never want someone to like reach their health goal and then have to come back because they don't know why they're doing the things that they're doing because the dietitian isn't telling them anymore.
Yeah.
So we work on that. And then goal setting is huge in what we do. So I typically have people think about things that they want to focus on or goals that they want to set for themselves. And we use SMART goals. And so then we can, you know, talk about what went well, what was challenging, and how they did with their goals.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like through some of this conversation that we've had, a lot of these activities are covered through existing health insurance.
Yeah, so this is something that most people don't know, but through preventative care, nutrition, education, and counseling is covered in a lot of policies. So I don't think that I knew that until I was in grad school, but it was part of the Affordable Care Act that with like preventative healthcare being covered, it's part of preventative healthcare, which is good because it can prevent a lot of health issues down the line.
So you'd have to obviously check with your insurance program, but it's a good possibility that something like this that you could implement as a massive benefit for your employees. I think that one of the, we've learned this lesson probably the hard way multiple times, but there's a lot of health care benefits that we have at our disposal that we don't necessarily know that are at our disposal, so we don't get to utilize them effectively. But I think that's something that any business should check with their, whatever kind of process they have, or reach out and see what works, because I would imagine any employee could see that as a massive value add if their entire organization was thinking down that same process.
Yeah, definitely.
So what are some major, just kind of flipping back to some of the nutrition, dietary type things, what are some of the major misconceptions that you see out there or that you hear out there that you're constantly having to correct or clarify when you have conversations with people?
So one of the big ones right now is that carbs are bad. Carbs are not bad. We really need them in our bodies. It's our body's first choice of energy, and it's what our brain runs off of. So carbs are a good thing. It's what we have to think about is the amount, the times that we're eating it, and the types of carbs. So obviously, like a donut that has a lot of carbs in it, compared to a slice of whole grain bread, our body's going to do a lot better with something that is a little bit more natural. It still has the fiber, things like that. Another thing that really surprises people is that for people that are trying to lose weight, under eating can really sabotage your weight loss goals. And I think sometimes when I look at what people are eating and I tell them, I think that we need to increase your calories, it can be a little bit scary, but if your body isn't getting the fuel that it needs, it's not going to work properly.
Yeah, which again goes back to that kind of decision making, the gut health, all those things, right? They're all kind of tied together. You're just trying to cut food out because you're trying to lose weight, but in all actuality, you're just causing more damage than progress that you think that you're making.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what is the absolute best thing to eat?
The absolute best thing to eat, I would say the more fruits and vegetables you can get. I think that's what we're probably lacking the most of in the U.S. All of our food and all of our food groups are really important, and they all play a different role in our body. So it's hard to say like what's the most important or what's the best thing. But with our like fruits and vegetables, if you can eat the rainbow, so if you can get in your reds, orange, yellows, greens, purples, and blues, that is kind of ensuring that you're getting most of the nutrients that you need from them. So
eating the rainbow is different than tasting the rainbow, which is Skittles.
Yes, it is. You can do both, but yeah, it is different.
So I feel like day one, a conversation with you you're going back to the food pyramid from school and explaining the food pyramid, because none of us have any clue what that is anymore.
Yeah, so I definitely try to focus on, teaching people about carbs, proteins, fats. Those are our macronutrients, and just, educating people on why those are important and what that does for our body. And I think that really shines a light on why we need a good variety of food in our diet and why each of those are important.
So what kind of exercise ideas or suggestions do you have, and how that plays into the entire kind of dietary and nutrition realm?
Yeah, so with exercise, the one thing that I tell people is you can't outwork a bad diet. So I think a lot of people like to think, if I go to the gym all the time, I can eat whatever I want to.
So that's not the case.
Might work.
just to clarify, that's not cool, because if I go run 3 miles, then I should be able to eat a pizza.
Yeah, so that it might work for some time, but at some point, it doesn't work anymore like that. So food is anywhere from 70 to 80% of it, and exercise is 20 to 30%. So the biggest thing that I tell people with exercise is extremely important, but I encourage people to try to find something that they enjoy doing. If you can't find something that you like to do, chances of you sticking to it are slim to none. And then a lot of times it can cause a lot of frustration and like, oh, I don't like this exercise and I don't want to do it, so I'm never going to be able to be healthy. And it can start that cycle. Is there any exercise that you would say would be not good or bad exercise? Like, for instance, I know people that walk regularly, like it's just walk. So go walk a couple of miles. And I would imagine there's increased heart rate and all that versus like the intense exercise where you come out of when you used to be able to go to a gym, but when you could come out of a gym and be just soaking wet from sweat. Is there a better or worse? Is it start somewhere type thing? What kind of advice do you give with people like that? So I would definitely say to start where you're comfortable. And, some people really love to spend an hour in the gym and, working out hard, sweating a lot, and it's a good stress reliever for them. And I think that's totally fine. But there's other people that's not what they like to do. And, I don't think it's something that people have to do. And like I said, finding, what you like is important. If you can get a mix of cardio and a little bit of resistance or strength training, it works different systems. So that's good. But I don't think that there's any bad exercise.
No bad exercise. Good advice. Hey, thanks for listening to the Coffee Break Podcast. If this information has been helpful to you or you just really kind of like our theme song, can you help us out by rating us on whatever app you're using? And if you get really fancy, how about sharing a screenshot on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn? Okay, enough of all this. Let's get back to the conversation. All right, so I want to ask probably one or two more questions before we kind of close this thing up. But I know right now, and at our record date, which is the first part of April, the nation is going into stay-home orders, and there's a lot of restrictions on what you can and can't do. How have you, working in this field, changed or had to adapt to a kind of a different way of life right now, where your appointments are typically in person and people are connecting with you in person? What are the changes that you've had to make in your business to adapt to that?
So we had to obviously make a lot of changes because we can't meet with people face to face right now. So our company has done an awesome job. And I think within like a week, we switched everything over to telehealth. So now we're able to talk to people kind of like we're doing right now via Zoom, and everything is still HIPAA compliant. We can carry out our appointments like we normally would. It's a little bit different because, you're not in the same room like you typically are. But it's been a pretty easy transition. And I think, me and the company and the team, our ability to be adaptable has been really helpful in this.
How have your patients or your clients been able to adapt to that? Are you seeing that they're a little cautiously approaching it, or are they embracing it, going, hey, this is great? Like, what is the feedback that you've been getting? Because it is a massive transition that we're all kind of learning a new normal on.
Yeah. Are you talking in general or with like our telehealth? How we conduct
with your telehealth? Yeah. How are people receiving that?
So most people actually really like it, and they're happy that they can still continue on their health journey without leaving home. There are people that are like extremely happy about it because some people travel pretty far to see us.
Sure.
So it makes it a lot easier just to be able to log into the computer or to get on a phone call for that. And then I think there's always some people that are a little bit hesitant to change, but for the most part, it's been really positive.
Well, I'm always interested in how this changes, massive society changes apply to business, right? So what are the conversations that you're having now, or what do you think the general feel is once things go back to where you can meet in person, that's the new that goes back to the way it was. How do you see the telemedicine thing still playing a role in this? Do you think that you'll still have that as an option? Do you think you'll go back to only in-person meetings? Like, what is the conversation that's happening right now?
So that is a really good question, and we have talked a little bit about this. I hope that the telehealth services are still available once this is all over. Some of it has to do with insurance. So what is going to be billable by insurance? And so before this all happened, some of the insurance companies would not allow telehealth to be reimbursed. When this all kind of unfolded, then they started opening telehealth for different diagnostic codes so that we could still meet with people. So part of it will kind of depend on that. But I think that we're trying to move at least some of our business to telehealth just because we can reach a lot more people that way.
That makes a lot more sense. So a lot of that is driven from legislation through the healthcare providers, what they're going to, and I remember that all happening very quickly once they were starting to limit in-person interactions. They were like, hey, we're going to relieve a lot of these restrictions really quickly because we want people to be able to still have access to their healthcare providers, but without having to physically go into the location. So that's an awesome thing. I think, from my perspective, I would really enjoy having access to something like this if I could just have it as one of my appointments throughout the day and jump in there in a conference room at the office versus having to drive across town. So I think that would definitely be something cool. So with the corporate wellness thing, it's something that you're actively doing. If a company said, hey, I want to get in contact with you to say, how can I apply this to our business or just personally, what's kind of the process for getting that started?
So contacting any of the providers, or probably if no one is currently working with a provider, the best thing to do is get onto our website at tntgetfit.com, and you can send us a message that way. And then someone will reach out to you to talk more about that and to get that set up.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about it. I think this is a conversation that we're going to continue on even for our team and for our business. I think there will be a lot of value in that, and to continue to have you come in and talk with our group and our team to kind of gauge interest on it. So I definitely appreciate you being here today and having this conversation with us. I think is something that any business owner or leader should take major focus on and make health and nutrition part of your kind of daily focus and habits, because I think you get great value out of it.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dahlia, for being here today. We really appreciate her joining us virtually for another Coffee Break podcast. And we're excited because we've got a lot of great information, a lot of great content to share with you. We're still kind of navigating the new norm with a lot of our virtual guests, since a lot of our guests were scheduled to be in person, and now we're having to adapt to a virtual environment. And we're going to continue to try to provide value and content for you on a weekly basis. For those of you who may be listening or watching for the first time, well, get ready, because we've got tons of other episodes available, 80 plus episodes available for you to download on a variety of topics similar to this as it relates to business. So we talk about ways to have team building. We talk about culture. We'll talk about things that you can do from a team meeting standpoint, ways that you can pivot and apply different perspectives and processes into your organization. It's all part of our conversation here, talking about business ideas, practices, and strategies. If you're watching this, and this is your first time, well, you can go check out all the videos. They're on YouTube and Facebook. Just search for LOC-DOC and you'll find them all there. If you're watching this and you say, hey, this would be great to listen to as a podcast on an audio version only, well, we've got you covered there. Go to Loc-Doc.net/podcast, and there's going to be icons and links to subscribe on whatever platform that you typically listen to. You can get it there, and you can subscribe, because we have a brand new episode every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Be sure to check that out as well, and we will love to see you next time here on the Coffee Break Podcast.